Welcome, learners, to another deep dive. Today, we're embarking on quite a fascinating journey. We're looking into what it really takes to master high-level human resources. Specifically, we're pulling back the curtain on the SPHR certification. That's the Senior Professional in Human Resources. And we've got a really intriguing set of sources today. Not your usual academic papers, but insights gleaned directly from the people who actually build the top-tier study materials. Our mission. Well, it's to unpack the thinking, the ingenious design behind these comprehensive guides. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to understand the whole philosophy and, the depth of knowledge you need for strategic HR leadership, and how these materials are basically engineered to get you there. This isn't just about what to study. It's about how you truly integrate and apply these, well, pretty complex HR domains.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here, I think, is how these sources highlight a very deliberate shift in high-level HR education. It's not simply about conveying information anymore. It's about cultivating a truly strategic mindset. So we'll be looking at the specific components, the teaching methods that make these guides so uniquely effective, how they turn knowledge into, well, applicable insight for tough challenges like the SPHR exam.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack our first key area then, the one illuminated by these sources. Job analysis, description, and specification.
Yeah.
Now, most HR folks have a basic grasp here, right? Defining duties, setting requirements, standard stuff. But our sources reveal that for SPHR prep, it's elevated. It becomes a truly strategic approach, way beyond just a basic checklist.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the guide for this topic is meticulously designed with strategic workforce planning integration right at its core. So this means you're not just analyzing a job in a vacuum. You're trained to see how that role fundamentally shapes the organization's future talent landscape. For instance, the sources show how these guides teach you to analyze a role not just for, current tasks, but for future skill needs, maybe based on a company's 3-year growth plan.
Right, so it connects directly to things like succession planning or building talent pipelines.
Precisely. Or even anticipating how AI might transform a role in, say, 5 years. It's that forward-looking piece.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for anyone really trying to learn this stuff. These guides emphasize SPHR-aligned practices. So tailored very specifically to what the exam expects, pushing you to think at that strategic level. And then crucially, they integrate powerful retention tools, ways to make sure this complex information actually sticks.
And that raises a really important question. Why are these tools so critical for a certification as demanding as the SPHR? Well, it's because the SPHR exam and, honestly, real-world strategic HR demands deep practical understanding, not just, rote memorization. Our sources show some clever techniques, like for remembering a complex process, maybe job evaluation methods. A guide might use a mnemonic, something like CIR-CLE, comparison, information gathering, ranking. You get the idea.
Bang memory hooks.
Exactly. Or they use these intricate flowcharts, maybe to visually map out complex legal issues within job specification, makes it much easier to recall and actually apply it under pressure.
Makes sense. And when we delve into what's actually in such a guide, our sources revealed they're packed with, yes, robust definitions, you'd expect that, but also these sophisticated strategic frameworks. And these aren't just academic ideas, right? They're more like blueprints for how HR should operate at a high level. Plus, they deeply integrate key U.S. laws for job analysis and, importantly, global considerations.
Yeah.
That's a lot to weave together for just one area.
It is, but this blend ensures that truly holistic view, which is absolutely essential for a strategic HR pro. It's not enough to just, say, define a job description. You need to grasp its strategic implications for recruitment, performance management, even organizational design. The sources show how these guides push you. They make you consider the legal boundaries in the U.S. that dictate how you define and classify roles.
Like avoiding discriminatory language or ensuring ADA compliance.
Exactly that, making sure essential functions are clear. And then they challenge you to think about how these concepts translate, or maybe, more often, how they differ globally. A multinational company can't just copy-paste U.S. job classification standards into, say, Germany. You've got works councils, different data privacy laws. It can mean a completely distinct approach.
Right. That level of nuance is really what defines that strategic SPHR level knowledge.
Precise.
And to really solidify that learning, these guides also incorporate a lot of practice questions and these compelling real-world scenarios. So it's not just theory you're reading. It's immediate, often high-stakes application. You're sort of put in the shoes of an HR leader facing a tricky challenge.
Exactly. And the scenarios are expertly crafted. They force you to think critically, to apply those strategic frameworks and legal understandings to complex, sometimes ambiguous situations, which, let's face it, is what real HR work often is. So a scenario might present an outdated job description because technology changed rapidly, and you have to apply job analysis principles to redesign the role, assess the impact on pay structure, consider legal risks if employees aren't reclassified properly.
And the practice questions aren't just simple recall.
No, definitely not. They're designed to mimic the complexity and format of the actual SPHR exam questions. It helps build both competence and confidence for navigating those high-pressure situations.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about another critical area highlighted in our sources: employment discrimination. This is an area where, well, legal compliance, ethical decision-making, risk mitigation, they're all paramount. Especially at the strategic level, the stakes are just incredibly high.
They really are. And similar to job analysis, the study guides for employment discrimination are structured around fundamental definitions and these critical strategic frameworks. This approach helps you grasp the core concepts, protected classes, different types of discriminatory practices, but then importantly, how organizations strategically manage the associated risks and opportunities. Often that's through proactive policies, strong internal complaint systems, comprehensive training. It's about building a proactive defense, not just reacting when things go wrong.
And our sources specifically point out the inclusion of deep dives into U.S. laws and global considerations within this guide, too. That tells you right away this isn't just a basic overview. It's designed for, well, comprehensive mastery.
Oh, absolutely vital. And this is where that SPHR level truly distinguishes itself. Employment discrimination laws are incredibly intricate. They vary significantly, not just state by state within the U.S.
Right, like California versus Texas, for
Yes,
example. Right?
but even more profoundly across different countries. What might be permissible or even required in one place, maybe certain affirmative action initiatives, could be illegal or seen as reverse discrimination somewhere else. So the guides really delve into the nuances of specific U.S. legal landmarks, things like Title VII, the ADA, the ADEA, understanding how they intersect, which can get complex.
Can you give an example of that complexity?
Sure, think about a reasonable accommodation request under the ADA. It might potentially conflict with seniority rules laid out in a union contract. The HR leader then has to navigate these really complex legal and ethical trade-offs. Understanding both the specific U.S. legal landscape and that broader global context allows for a much more comprehensive, adaptable, and ethically sound HR practice. That's really the hallmark of an SPHR certified professional.
And crucially, just like the job analysis guide, this one also uses those essential retention tools, plenty of practice questions, and those really illuminating real-world scenarios. It helps ensure that the understanding truly sticks and, importantly, can be applied under pressure. It seems like that consistent reinforcement is key.
It is. And what's truly fascinating here is precisely that consistent, sophisticated teaching approach across these different complex HR domains. Both job analysis, description and specification, and employment discrimination fall under the broader HR planning, recruitment, and selection domain in the SPHR body of knowledge. That grouping and the identical rigorous structure of their study guides, it strongly suggests that an integrated understanding is paramount.
So they're not meant to be seen as separate silos.
Not at all. They're intricately linked pieces of a larger strategic puzzle in HR. And the guides are designed to teach you to see those connections, how one piece affects the others.
Okay, so stepping back then, what does all this mean for you, our listeners, whether you're maybe diligently studying for the SPHR yourself, or perhaps leading an HR team, or even if you're just curious about what makes advanced HR knowledge so robust and, frankly, essential today?
Well, I think this deep dive reveals that mastering these complex HR areas goes way beyond just the surface level understanding or, memorizing a list of laws or definitions. It demands a pretty sophisticated grasp of strategic integration, really understanding how one HR function impacts another and impacts the business as a whole. That, alongside a detailed understanding of legal nuances, the profound impact of global considerations, and critically, the ability to apply that knowledge effectively through complex, often ambiguous, real-world scenarios.
So it's about being truly well-informed in the deepest sense. Not just recalling facts, but understanding the intricate connections, the practical implications of these HR concepts. And that deliberate focus we saw on retention tools, those layered practice questions, the challenging scenarios within these study guides,
Yeah.
it really speaks to that philosophy, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's about building a versatile, strategic HR mindset, one that's ready for, well, pretty much anything.
So we've explored how these comprehensive study guides for the SPHR, specifically looking at job analysis and employment discrimination, are built, not just to transfer information, but to really foster deep strategic understanding. It almost feels like a template for achieving genuine mastery in a complex field.
I think so. We've seen how they cleverly integrate these critical elements, strategic workforce planning, intricate legal frameworks, both U.S. and global, and that rigorous practical application through scenarios. It really creates effective learning experiences that prepare someone not just for an exam, but for real-world HR leadership and all the unpredictable challenges that come with it.
Okay, so as you reflect on this deep dive, here's something to maybe mull over. How might this structured, scenario-based approach to learning complex topics, one that emphasizes strategic links, legal details, global views, not just definitions, how might that be applied to other fields you're trying to master? It seems like a powerful model for moving beyond just simple facts to achieve true, integrated understanding. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you're leaving with some new insights and maybe a renewed appreciation for how comprehensive knowledge is truly built, especially in such a vital and constantly evolving field like human resources.